The topic I am going to cover in this video must be already known to you, as it is often used in our daily lives. We often hear sentences such as, I take guarantee of this person, that this person is very honest. I take guarantee of this product, that it will work very good for your needs. But do you know, before taking guarantee of any person, you must be very cautious, as there can be legal repercussions as well. So let's understand this topic in detail, the contract of guarantee. Before that, I would give you an illustration to make you understand what guarantee is all about. So let's take an example of Mr. A, who wants to start a new business but lacks fund. So he goes to Mr. B, who lends money, or he may go to bank as well, or any financial institution like personal lenders and all that. So he goes to B saying that I need a loan of 5 lakh rupees. I need to borrow it. I'll repay you. Like he went to him on 5th March 2019 and he says that I'll repay you, uh, borrows on, and will repay on 5th November 2019 along with interest. Okay. So, but B says that what is the guarantee that you will repay me along with interest? So A says that I'm very honest person, I'll definitely repay you, but B says we cannot trust on this word only. So I want some guarantee, like I want surety. If someone can give guarantee on your behalf, I'll lend this money to you. A goes to C, who is a very good friend of him and knows him very well. Since C knows that A is very honest, he goes to B and agrees to become guarantor on his behalf. So what happens is, since C is giving guarantee to B on behalf of A, which means he is asking B to lend him 5 lakh rupees and he is taking a guarantee that he'll repay the same amount, principal amount, along with 10% interest by 5th November 2019 to B. In case he defaults, in case A defaults, C will have to, because since he is taking the guarantee, C will have to repay the principal amount along with interest to B by this date. I mean, if A defaults, then C will have to pay this amount to B. Okay. So you have to understand, the A is called principal debtor, B is called creditor who is lending money, C is called surety who is becoming a surety on behalf of principal debtor. Got it? Now we have to understand that there are three parties. You know that, right? Three parties in the contract of guarantee. Who are these three parties? Principal debtor 1, creditor 2, surety 3. So what happens is, like, there are three parties and there are three contracts as well. How? The first contract is between A and B. How? Principal debtor and B, who is a creditor. How there is a one contract? Because since A has taken money from B and A will have to repay it by certain time period along with certain interest to B. So this is the original contract between them, right? Because A is using that money for his own benefit, B is getting interest on it. So this is a like original contract, and this will be called primary contract as well. Primary contract. Okay, so this is first contract. Second contract between is creditor and surety. How? See, this is creditor and this is surety. So had there not been surety, there would not have been any contract of guarantee. You have to understand this thing. Surety is the must actually for the contract of guarantee. So what happens is, like, in case A defaults, C is given guarantee that I'll repay the same amount to you. Okay, so there is another contract between surety and creditor, and this is called secondary contract. Secondary contract. Okay, so the secondary contract is between creditor and surety. Why is it called secondary contract? Because B will ask the money from surety only when principal debtor defaults. If principal debtor pays all the money to the creditor, then surety will not have to pay to the creditor. Like, creditor cannot come to surety first before asking his money from the principal debtor. Okay, so his surety's liability is secondary. And there's one more contract. The third contract is between A and C, that is principal debtor and surety. How? Suppose surety, the third contract, we are talking about third contract. Okay, suppose surety pays to the creditor when A defaults. Personal debtor does not pay to the creditor, surety will have to pay. Then surety is at the loss. Why? Because the money that principal debtor had borrowed was used for his own benefit, not for the benefit of surety. So if surety pays the same amount to the creditor, he would be at loss. He or she would be at loss. So what law says is, one party cannot benefit from the loss of the other person. Okay, so there has to be one more contract between surety and principal debtor. And what that contract is all about? If surety pays to the creditor in case of default by the principal debtor, then principal debtor will have to refund that money, will have to compensate that loss of surety. It is must. And this contract is called implied contract. Why is it called implied contract? Do you know that? Because, and if we have already seen under the indemnity, contract of indemnity, what happens is, like, one cannot benefit from the loss of the other person. So if there is a benefit to one person and the loss of the other person, then this person who has benefited will have to compensate that loss, will have to reimburse to the other person. Okay, so here what would happen is, principal debtor would have to reimburse to the surety, and that is by law. So this is implied contract. So three parties, three contracts. Okay, so what does section 126 of Indian Contract Act 1872 says? A contract of guarantee is a contract to perform the promise. That is, perform the promise means, if borrower has taken from the lender, that is personal debtor has taken from the creditor, then that debtor, principal debtor will have to repay that amount along with interest. Okay, perform, and if he does not repay, then surety will have to. Okay, this perform the promise or discharge the liability. Third person, who is the third person? Principal debtor. Perform the promise or discharge the liability of the third person, that is principal debtor, in case of his default. that we'll have to understand that surety's liability is secondary. Okay, got this point? Now, if we can see one more thing, that is this contract of guarantee can be oral as well as written. It can be oral or written. It does not need to be only written, okay, but that is under Indian law, but under English law, it has to be written only. But under Indian law, it says it could be oral as well as written. Fine. Now let's understand the essentials of the contract of guarantee. That is, first is concurrence of all the parties. We already have understood there are three parties. Okay, and principal debtor, creditor, and surety. The another one is principal debt. Obviously, there has to be the existence of principal debt, without which there would not be any contract of guarantee. Got it? Consideration. All of us know that there is no contract valid without any consideration. There has to be some consideration in order to have a valid contract. Okay. So, one thing we have to understand is, under the contract of guarantee, what could be the consideration for the surety? Like, since surety is taking the guarantee on behalf of principal debtor, is he getting something from the principal debtor in return? Not necessary. Because section 127 of the Indian Contract Act says, anything done or any promise made for the benefit of principal debtor may also be sufficient consideration to the surety, which means A went to B for supply of goods on credit. Now B says, I need some person who can give guarantee on your behalf that you will pay me later. So A goes to C, C takes the guarantee, and C says to B, please supply him goods, I take guarantee that he will pay. So what is happening here is, B, after taking C has taken the guarantee, B supplies this good to A. So what happens is, this is the sufficient consideration. Supplying of goods to the A is a sufficient consideration for C. Okay. Liability of the surety. One thing we already have dealt is, this liability of the surety is secondary, that is not primary. What did it mean is, first, the creditor will have to go to personal debtor in order to get his money back. In case the personal debtor defaults only when the liability of the surety arises. Okay, so this is secondary. And section 128 of the Indian Contract Act also says that liability of the surety is coextensive with that of principal debtor. What it means is, if personal debtor's liability is around 5 lakh rupees, 5 lakh rupees plus 10% interest, then the liability of the surety is also same, not more, not less than that. Okay, so surety will also have to pay the same amount to the creditor. And another example is that, like, even the charges, like for example, C takes guarantee, that C gives guarantee to B on behalf of A, saying that the bill of exchange, payment of bill of exchange to B, that is the bill of exchange that is accepted by A, C gives the guarantee to B of the payment of that bill of exchange. But if that bill is dishonored, if that bill is dishonored, In that case, what happens is C will have to pay along with any interest or charges on that. Okay. So going next, no misrepresentation or concealment of facts by the creditor to the surety, which means the consent of the surety has to be free. Free in the sense we have to understand this fact also, that what does it mean? See, the creditor is not under any duty to disclose. Disclosure is not needed. Not needed. Unless it is very relevant. Okay, so what 142 says is guarantee obtained by misrepresentation is invalid. Okay, so there should not be any misrepresentation regarding the material part of the transaction. And also 143 talks about concealment, which means if the creditor has kept his silence as to the material circumstances, that is invalid. So we'll have to understand what are the material circumstances that could render a contract invalid if there has been silence or misrepresentation on that. So example is A has kept B as a clerk to collect money. Okay, so which means A has employed B as a clerk to collect money, but some amount of money was not duly accounted actually. There was no receipt on that. So what happens is A calls upon B saying that I have a doubt on you. I need some person who can guarantee on your behalf. So B goes to C and C gives guarantee to A. But C is unknown of the fact, unknown of the previous conduct of the B, and A has kept silence on that. A also has not told C that the accounting of B was under suspicion. Okay, so in this case, this contract is invalid. Do you understand this? What it means is, if there is any fact which is very relevant to the surety, which is very relevant to be known to the surety, and had this fact been known to the surety, surety would not have come into the contract of guarantee. He would not have given the guarantee on behalf of any person. So this fact will need to be disclosed to the surety. Okay, not every fact needs to be disclosed to the surety by the creditor. So we also need to understand the difference between indemnity and the contract of guarantee. So what happens in the indemnity? Indemnity is a contract whereby one party promises to save the other from the loss caused by the conduct of the promisor or the another person. What means is, the one party, that is indemnifier, promises to indemnified or indemnity holder that I will reimburse the loss to you if it is caused by the conduct of you or any other third person. Okay, for example, we can also see the examples of insurance company, because they promises to the insured that if something happens, like in case of motor vehicles insurance, if something happens to your vehicle, then I will compensate that loss to you. Okay, so in that case, this is contract of indemnity. The guarantee contract, what happens is, like we have already dealt this thing, there are three parties, and this one party says that in case this one party defaults, I'll discharge the liability of or perform the promises on his behalf to, and The another one is indemnity. There are two parties, and there are three parties in the contract of guarantee: creditor, principal debtor, and surety. Contract between indemnifier and indemnity holder is express and specific, while the contract between, see here we have already talked, the surety and principal debtor, it is implied, but under the creditor and principal debtor it is expressed. Okay. So another one is the liability of indemnifier is primary. Here we have already dealt that surety is liability is secondary, right? When the principal debtor is unable to pay or defaults, then only the surety will have to pay. But under this indemnity contract, the liability of indemnifier is primary. Like if something happens to the vehicle, then what happens is the indemnifier will have to reimburse first. In contract of indemnity, there is only one agreement, that is agreement between indemnifier and indemnity. Here we have already dealt with three contracts. I hope you already have understood that. So, indemnifier must always bring the suit in the name of indemnified and cannot sue the third party in his own name. So here we have already seen, like insurance company suppose have already promises the insured person to reimburse the loss, and what happens is like there is a vehicle insurance, and this person meets, suppose Akash is the insured person, and he meets with an accident, and by negligence of third person, then what happens is the vehicle is there is a loss of that vehicle. So this insurance company will compensate to Akash, but if there has to be suit filed against this third person, so insurance company cannot sue in his own name, it has to be in the name of Akash. Here what happens is, if surety once pays the debt payable by the principal debtor to the creditor, then he steps into the shoes of the creditor and asks the same amount of money from the principal debtor as if it was his own money. Okay. I hope you understood this lecture thoroughly, and if you really liked it, please subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.